the theater has always been a place where people go and watch movies. And what's cool about theater movies is that it's a big screen and it's Dolby surround sound. You know, it's really good sound effects, it's really good speakers, it's a really big screen. However, you have to sit there in one place for 2 hours, around a bunch of strangers, in like sticky floors because it's got candy on it and people spill soda on it, expensive like popcorn that is not really the freshest sometimes. I've even been into a movie theater where the popcorn is not like freshly popped, it's actually just stands there in little bags. Like they've already popped it like an hour ago and it's just standing there and it doesn't taste as fresh as the freshly popped. And the popcorn is $10, the tickets are $20. And are like movies going to be a thing in the future, right? Like is this really something? It's definitely something people want to go to see, you know, just because of the big screen, just because it's a big presentation. I know people like to see it, but for the people that make movies, like is showing their movie at a movie theater really paying them off, you know, or selling your movie to be seen on like Netflix or something like that? Would you make more money by putting your movie on Netflix than putting it in the theaters? You know, because when they say like, oh, this movie grossed like $10 million in the first week, that's how much like it grossed. That's like how many tickets they actually sold. But a lot of that goes to the theater. A lot of that goes to expenses. A lot of that goes to distribution costs, right? And trying to figure out like, you know, where they're gonna show it and who they're gonna have to pay to show it, you know? And is it just going to be more like easier for people that make movies or like big Hollywood movies to go direct to video? And because like now it's a very, very different system of what is, you know, something that people want to see in a theater or what is something that people want to see at home. Think about it. In the theaters, it's pretty cool, but it's like a different experience. I think basically people really are going to want to like go to see movies in a theater, but a lot of movies are going straight to Netflix now. A lot of like series are going straight to Netflix or straight to like some kind of medium. And the thing is, about the quality of those movies, I really do see like the Netflix original series to be better than regular movies. Like movies are cool, but then when you do like a series for something like Netflix, it makes like, I don't even know how much money, but Netflix makes billions, you know, and one like series, it's just so good when they just put it directly to Netflix. And the thing is, series are longer, you know, it's basically probably 10 episodes in one season, and like the next year another season comes out, right? And 10 episodes is like around 10 hours long, right? And movies can only be 2 hours long if it's in the theater or if it's a movie. And I'm thinking like now what I'm seeing is movies that are in theaters, that are there as a movie to be released in the theater, are like 2 hours long approximately, you know, like some are shorter, some are longer. But movies that are like, or like series or shows that are meant for specifically Netflix, and I really think Netflix is specifically the thing I'm talking about, because Netflix their original series are so good and they're very bingeable, you know, like they're 10 hours long, there's like 10 episodes, and it's a long series. Whereas a movie, it's like, okay, here's a 2 hour movie. And then you have to wait like 2 or 3 years, or 2 years maybe, for a sequel to come out. And the sequel usually sucks, right? The sequel is usually not as good as the first movie. And when the sequel's not good, there's never going to be a second sequel, right? There's never going to be a third part to that movie. And it's only like 2 hours at a time. And it's expensive. You know, Netflix is what, like, I don't know, like right now it's a little over $10 for a month of Netflix. And so that's like a month of Netflix. Whereas like for 2 months of Netflix and all of their content, you can go see 1 2 hour movie in a theater. One. Pretty much. That's if you buy tickets and maybe popcorn or candy or something. Because you can't just go to a movie without having something to eat or something. Because that's the whole part of the movie. It's like popcorn. So what makes a movie a movie? It's like a special, it's like a little bit of a ritual, you know? Like, well, not a ritual, but like it's a little bit of a ritual, I guess, right? When you go to the movie, you get popcorn. But if you get a drink, you're probably gonna miss 5 minutes of the movie because you're probably gonna use the bathroom, and then you can't pause that movie on the screen, you know? You always miss something out of it, and you never know if you're gonna miss a good part or whatever. And on top of that, you don't know if the movie is gonna be good or if it's gonna suck, right? So sometimes we go to a movie theater and we're amazed how great this movie was, but it's a pure chance. We don't know it's gonna be good, right? Maybe sometimes people say, oh, you should see the movie, it's great. And then you go see it, it's like, well, it wasn't as great as everyone said it was, right? It's always like that, where like, everyone says it's great, and then you go to see it, and it's like, well, it was good, but it wasn't as great as everybody said it was. Or a movie you've never heard of, and all of a sudden, it kind of really blows you away with how good it is. Or you go, and the movie really sucks, and it's got like a crappy ending, and you've spent $20 and 2 hours sitting there for no reason whatsoever, you know? And with Netflix, it's just like you're at home, right? You've got widescreen TVs. I can understand, like in the past, they were like smaller TV sets, right? But widescreen TVs they have now, like 5 foot, 6 foot TV sets. It really depends on the size of your wall, how big your TV set is gonna be. It's got high definition. It's got Dolby surround sound. You could put speakers around your living room and get the same sound effect as in a movie, right? In the movie theater, right? Is it better? Honestly, the quality of like Netflix original series are better than qualities of Hollywood movies. Personally, I just find there's more of the Netflix, they're just so good. They're really, really good. And I think it's because it's not Hollywood. I just think there's like a lot of different people doing the Netflix thing, the Netflix original series thing, that really know what they're doing. And Hollywood is like, to make a movie is like $10 million. And it's like, okay, we're gonna put $10 million to make this movie. And, you know, they don't want to take chances. They're like, well, we don't know if it's gonna be good, but we're gonna do this movie, and how do we know it's gonna be good? Well, this other movie that was sort of similar to that was good, so this movie will be good too. And so what you get is occasional original movies that are usually good, and then you get like about 10 copies of that movie. Like you get other people making copies of movies because they're just like not certain. They're just too scared to make an original movie, and they just don't know the difference between something good and something that's not good. Like how to make something great and how to make something not great. They don't know the difference in Hollywood. They cannot tell the difference. They spend $10 million on one movie that's great and $10 million in another movie that sucks. And they didn't know it was gonna suck. It just did. They really don't whoever's in charge of allocating money to fund movies cannot tell the difference before the movie is made, whether it's gonna suck or it's gonna be good, you know? And so they go and they put actors who are experienced, you know, they try to do writers who are experienced, who've written good things before, directors that have directed other good movies, producers that have produced other good movies, you know, all different things that they put in movies to make it good. And yeah, I mean, if you put good actors in a movie, it's going to be a well-acted movie. If you put good writers, it's going to be a well-written movie. Good directors, it's going to be well-directed probably, you know. But most of the time, you can't get those directors, and you might have one or two like actors or something, and the rest of the movie is written by people that don't really have a history of, you know, they wrote a movie, but they don't have a history of like blockbuster movies. And even people that do have a history of writing amazing stuff could write crappy stuff. Like, you know, it doesn't matter like if you wrote something amazing or acted in an amazing role, you could still do a crappy job at the current role or the next thing that you do or the next movie that you write or the next movie you perform. It's got to do with everything and putting it together. And the question is like, it's because also it's like it doesn't cost $10 million to put your movie on Netflix because you're paying one company to put your movie on their platform. Basically, one company. However, when you put your movie in theaters, you're paying multiple theaters to basically show your movie. I don't really actually know how it goes. Do they pay the theater, or do they like get a portion of like, or does the theater just accept their movie in their theater and then they get a portion of like a cut of the amount that that movie brings in? I think that's what it probably does. They probably get like, the theater probably gets like, for example, like 50%, and then the movie creators, people that are like selling the movie, gets like 50% probably out of all the ticket sales and stuff like that. What's interesting also is that if it goes in the theater and it gets bad reviews, it never even gets a chance. And to put your movie in theaters, you've got these theaters like, they're just like, they want certain movies or a certain kind of movie. And I just think like the quality of theater movies, like how many theater movies are actually really good, right? Basically like, oh my God, some years there's a lot of good theater movies, right? Other years there aren't. If you look at the Oscars, it always goes to some movie that the Oscars thinks is good, but not necessarily the average person thinks is good. You know, like Oscars are always like giving their Oscar to movies that are just like what the Oscar says is a good movie, right? It's not actually objective. It's the judges that they just like it. You know, that it's a very personal thing to the Oscars. They don't objectively look at this movie and say, is this a good movie? You know, but they just basically tell them their opinion. I like this movie, therefore it's a good movie. You know, but then the thing is, like, if you watch the Netflix original series, they're better. They're better, and it's just so much more comfortable to just watch a movie at home. And it's just so much better to watch a Netflix series. Because, for one thing, is you could turn it on, and if it sucks, you don't have to watch any more of it. You don't have to sit there for 2 hours because you bought a ticket to a crappy movie. Because that's what usually people do. Like, they don't walk out. Like, very few people walk out of movies. So you could turn on a Netflix series, watch the first 10 minutes or 20 minutes or a half hour, and if it doesn't suck you in, you can just turn it off. And the thing about Netflix is you can just turn on a different Netflix series, and there's probably something different that you'll like. And they even give you those percentages. Like, they go, you have a 98% chance of liking this movie or something like that, because it's got to do with the other movies that you liked and the other movies that you watched on Netflix. And if you liked it, then you can watch 10 hours of the whole season. And it's a 10-hour story, right? So where the theater has size and production, like big sized screens, you know, Netflix has length of stories, right? And the ability to tell a longer story, a bigger story. Like, books are so much better as a series because you could take a book and turn it into a 10-hour story. But if you take a book and turn it into a 2-hour story, you're basically having to just like summarize the book and make it into a 2-hour story. It's just not practical. Anyone that's ever tried to do this, they don't always fail at it, but it doesn't like tell the whole story. They have to say, okay, we've got to tell this part of the story, but we can't tell all of these other parts of the story because we don't have enough time to tell this whole story. And, you know, movie productions are hugely expensive, where, I mean, Netflix should be like hugely expensive, but I think that theater movies are expensive because you need a different kind of camera, right? You need like different equipment. You need equipment that create like a big screen movie. Whereas with like Netflix original series, is you pretty much have different equipment, like smaller equipment, because it doesn't have to translate to a big screen. It doesn't have to be like on a big film. It could just be smaller digital equipment that they can use to make a TV show, for example. So what movies have in the theater for size, right? That's basically what it is. The only good part about it is the size of the movie. And even the sound it's okay. But if you've noticed with the sound of movies in theaters, it's not always great. It's always like that Dolby surround sound, but it really has to do with the speakers they have in the theater that really translate the sound of the movie. Sometimes it sounds really good, and other times it doesn't sound that great, and it has to do with the speakers in the theater. But the thing is, that's the only good point about seeing a movie in the theater. And I still like seeing theater movies, and I still enjoy it because of the big screen. But however, the big screen in the theater is the only advantage, besides the sound, is the only advantage it has to anything like to watching a movie at home. You know, now, like before in the past, you would say, well, of course, a theater movie's better than a at-home movie. Watching in a theater is better because it's a big screen, but watching it at home, it's nice and comfortable, and you have food, and you have a refrigerator, and you have like, you know, you could pause it and do something else, whatever it is. However, it's like in the past, it was the same length of movie, whereas now Netflix original series are like 10 hours long, and sometimes like you'll start watching it and then there's like seasons of it. So like it's 10 hours long, and then a year later another season comes out. So it's like a continuation of the story. You know, so now watching movies at home or on Netflix has an advantage. Whereas it's, for one thing, it's cheap. The equipment they use is probably cheaper equipment, right, than equipment they would use for big screen movies. And also, they're able to tell a longer story. They're able to tell more of a story. They're able to take chances with the plot, you know, because they also know that if they make a movie for a certain kind of person, that kind of person is going to watch that movie. Whereas like theater movies, they have to make it for everybody. They have to make it so that everybody goes to see it, right? Because people are just gonna, like, if it's only for a certain kind of person, and in the first week or so, that kind of person doesn't really go to see that movie, and it's for the wrong person, that person is gonna say that movie sucks because it wasn't for them, right? It was for somebody else. Whereas a Netflix series, they can make it, like, niche it down to make it for like a specific person. And what's going to happen is Netflix is going to recommend that movie to that person because they know their browser history, they know their movie history, they know what they like to watch. They know that the guy that watches all these fantasy movies is going to like this movie because it's got fantasy in it. You know, people are going to like that. And so it gets rated and reviewed and rated by people who understand the genre and understand the series, and people that actually watched it. You know, because people that don't like it aren't going to watch more than maybe one episode, or maybe even less. They'll watch sometimes people watch 10, 20 minutes of it and decide they don't like it and turn it off and never see it again. And those people, really, it doesn't matter because the movie isn't for those people, right? They're for this certain kind of person. So they can make a movie about anything and they can really go into the story. Think about it, like Stranger Things. Would that ever have been a movie? Like, it could have been, but, you know, would everyone have liked it? Like, I don't know. Maybe. But what if it was a 2-hour movie? Could they have told that story? Like Stranger Things season 1. Could they have told that whole story in 2 hours? No, they would have had to abbreviate it. It would have been 20% of the movie that they did the whole season of. They would have, like, cut it down. They would have summarized it. They would have cut parts out. That story, it took a while to explain, it took a while to get into. There were a lot of elements. It translated very, very well to season 2 and 3. You know, would have Hollywood been able to do like a sequel to that? Would they be able to get the right people to do a sequel and another sequel? You know, who knows? It would have been left to chance. And 3 movies, like an original and 2 sequels, would have been 6 hours of content, whereas the 3 seasons in Stranger Things was 30 hours of content. It was a 30-hour story. it kept people entertained, not for 2 hours, but for like 10 hours per season, for days. People would just like click it on, watch an episode or two, click it off, click it on again later, go to the refrigerator, get something to eat, get a drink, whatever it is. And, and it's just like, it just feels like theater movies. I don't know about like I guess the future of theater movies is probably going to be okay. But if you think about it, like movie creators, are they going to say, I want to make a 2-hour theater movie that's only advantage is going to be that it's on a big screen? Or do I want to really tell a story? Do I want to make a 10-hour season of a story where I can do 10 hours of content for people, or whatever it is? I can do multiple hours of content. And the next year, after I do season 1, I could start on season 2 right away, and then season 3, and then go on and like work for years at this passion project, work for years at making this movie, And so are they gonna, but look, the advantages of theater movies is that's the big screen. But the disadvantages are like bad popcorn, expensive tickets, sticky floor, uncomfortable seats. You can't pause it, expensive food at the theater. You have to actually get to the theater at a certain time, sitting there for half an hour while all the trailers play out of stuff you don't want to watch that you didn't buy a ticket for, or put it on Netflix and be like, hey, whoever wants to watch this, it's for you. And what they can do with Netflix is put a bunch of different movies out there. Because look at the Netflix movies are like original. They're not copies of anything else, and they don't care. They're willing to take the chance because they know some people are gonna like it. They know if they make something good, some people are gonna like it. And they can make so much more content and therefore so much more value to the person. There's just so much of an advantage to selling direct to Netflix. And the thing is, you get global distribution and you get instant distribution, not like we gotta first find theaters and then show them the movie and then see if they like it and go through all that. And also redub the movie into other languages, where Netflix does that automatically. I think they just dub it into other languages. So right away the movie can be shown in every language, or every like language there was a lot of viewers that speak that language. And it's instantaneous. I feel like Netflix is the future of movies, and it really does change the whole game board of the way movies are done and movies are made. It's like the theater's got that advantage with a bunch of disadvantages, and Netflix has, it's a smaller screen, but it's comfortable, it's at home, you can even watch it on your phone, on your iPad. You're right, Netflix there's an app, you can just watch it on your iPad, your phone. You can watch it anywhere. You can pause it, you can click around to different stuff. There's tons of content, and you don't have to like sit there for 2 hours to watch a movie that you might or might not really like and might think, but because you paid $20 for it, you're just gonna sit and enjoy it because it's like you already paid for it, and if you didn't like it, you can't get out of it, Whereas like Netflix, you can. And I just feel like there's just such more of an advantage. If you look at the difference, it's like big screen or a whole season that you can watch like 10 hours of content. Is it the 2-hour movie on a big screen, or like a computer screen or a TV screen, but one season of content, 10 hours, 10 episodes, even more than 10 episodes, right? Around 10 hours of content right away, simultaneously, that you can binge. A long story that develops, that keeps going and changing and moving along, and it's just like, and then when you finish watching it, there's other stuff to watch. And then there's always like the following year, another season comes out if it's a good series. And hopefully the season 2 is just as good, So yeah, so let me know what you guys are thinking about that, of movie theaters. Are they still significant? I guess so, because, the big screen's the big screen, but it's the only advantage. Like, Netflix has every other advantage in their original series to the big screen. I think the big screen is still good. So like, personally, I think like when there's something good to watch on the big screen, it's going to be good. You don't know it's going to be good, but you think it might be good, then it might be good. But then at the same time, having to go somewhere and get to a theater and at a certain time and you just can't do it whenever you want, you know, is a lot more advantages. And are people going to just make movies just directly to Netflix? Is that going to be a thing? Are people going to say, I want to make 10 hours of content and put it on Netflix over I'm going to make a 2-hour movie and put it in the theater? So, you know, let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. Like and subscribe. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you liked it. Check out my other videos if you want. And I'll see you guys in another video later.